broadcast. My name is Wadulo, Arnold.
And Lauryn Masika Kazimoto.
And without further ado, let's take a look at the headlines for this year in review. In our headlines tonight, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni visits Vietnam, holds bilateral talks and signs cooperation agreement.
Deal or no deal, Museveni leads African leaders to US-Africa Business Summit.
Right Reverend Father Paul Semogedede installed as the 5th Archbishop of Kampala Diocese.
And former Speaker Jacob Olanya died in 2020, leaving options for new Speaker polls.
Thank you very much for joining us for this extensive live broadcast. My name is Wadulo Arnold. Once again, we'll now give you the news in detail. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and a high-ranking delegation on November 23rd began a 3-day visit to the Socialist Republic of Vietnam at the invitation of the Vietnamese counterpart, President Nguyen Xuan Phuc. While in Vietnam, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni held bilateral talks with His Excellency Nguyen, and several bilateral cooperation agreements were signed between the two governments. Banajiga brings you full highlights of President Museveni's visit to Vietnam.
On November 24, 2022, at the Vietnamese Presidential Palace in Hanoi, President Museveni was welcomed by his counterpart, His Excellency Nguyen Xuan Phuc. General Museveni was received with the state and ceremonial guard of honor by men and women in uniform. During the 30-minute ceremony, Presidents Museveni and Nguyen shook hands with the joyous people welcoming the Ugandan leader as a military band played the national anthems of both countries. President Museveni inspected the Interforces Guard of Honor before being ushered into the palace by the leader of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam for bilateral talks. His Excellency Nguyen said Vietnam commended Uganda's active contributions at regional and international forums, maintaining political stability, socio-economic transformation, and the fight against COVID-19. He held the diplomatic relations between the two countries.
Accordingly, it is my pleasure to speak directly with you, Mr. President, and reach an agreement on the main lines of action forward to bolster cooperation commensurate with the excellent political relationship and immense potential of the two sides. This will be in the interest of our two peoples in the lead up to the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the two countries next year, 1973-2023.
President Yoweri Museveni appreciated the invitation, describing his visit as an opportunity for pilgrimage to Vietnam.
I thank you for the invitation.
Cảm ơn ngài đã gửi lời mời tới tôi đến thăm đất nước Việt Nam.
The invitation allowed me to pay pilgrimage to the heroic people of Vietnam.
Trọng của chúng tôi.
But we freedom fighters come to Vietnam as our pilgrimage.
Chúng tôi coi việc đến Việt Nam lần này như một chuyến hành hương.
The two presidents witnessed the signing of cooperation documents in education, agriculture, ICT, and foreign affairs. The section of cabinet ministers from Uganda witnessed the high-level visit from the Republic of Uganda to Vietnam since the establishment of diplomatic relations in 1973. Other Ugandan delegates present were Minister of Finance Honorable Masika Kazimoto, Honorable Ntabazi Harriet, the State Minister for Trade, and Uganda's permanent representative to the UN, Ambassador Dunia Yebare, and Betty Bigombe, the ambassador designate to the Asian Pacific countries. General Museveni paid tribute to the late Vietnamese revolutionary leader and President Ho Chi Minh, who died in 1969. Padin Square is where the late Ho Chi Minh read the Declaration of Independence on 2nd September 1945, establishing the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. General Museveni also paid courtesy visits to the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Pham Minh Chinh, and the Vietnam Communist Party General Secretary, Nguyen Phu Trong. The President also visited the Vietnam Academy of Agricultural Sciences, where he called upon the government of Vietnam to cooperate with Ugandan research and value addition in agriculture, a sector benefiting billions of people in food security and income generation.
Like in the case of coffee, we were able to multiply by 5 times through the introduction of our scientists, through the introduction of the clone coffee, as opposed to the other old coffee. It was an old type of coffee. The research manual goes for yield, more yield per hectare, per hectare.
Earlier, the President also visited the FPT Corporation, Vietnam's leading and the largest IT company in South Asia. The President and his high-ranking delegation were later hosted to a state dinner hosted by President Nguyen at the International Convention Center in Hanoi, where Museveni extended invitation to the Vietnamese leader.
In furtherance of that partnership, Uganda will host the conference of the non-aligned movement in November 2023. I invite Your Excellency to attend, and after the conference, Your Excellency could put aside a day or two to see what is happening in modern Uganda.
Tôi xin trân trọng kính mời ngài Chủ tịch nước tham dự hội nghị này, và sau hội nghị xin kính mời ngài dành 1-2 ngày đến thăm đất nước của chúng tôi thời hiện đại.
I thank Your Excellency for this invitation which you extended to me. I take this honor to propose a toast to your good health and for the growing of the bilateral relations between Uganda and Vietnam.
Luôn tỏa sáng rực rỡ và chung tay cùng Việt Nam thúc đẩy hòa bình và hợp tác phát triển phồn vinh thịnh vượng.
I trust that under your able leadership, Uganda will continue to make greater successes through the implementation of Uganda Vision 2040. They will certainly turn Uganda into a modern and prosperous country and make the pearl of Africa forever shine. Vietnam stands ready to join Uganda in fostering peace, development, and cooperation in the regions and the world.
President Museveni attended and addressed the first Uganda-Vietnam Business Summit and Trade Exhibition at the International Convention Center in Hanoi on the theme, Unlocking Investment Opportunities. Museveni invited investors from Vietnam to invest in Uganda.
I would like to invite our friends from Vietnam to come and invest in some of these areas. I can think of value addition on agricultural products like coffee, textiles, fruits, cereals, milk, beef.
Bernard Higa, UBC News.
Thank you, Benadiga. Now, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Sunday, December 11th, 2022, left for the United States of America to attend the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. at the invitation of President Joe Biden. At Entebbe International Airport, His Excellency Museveni was sent off by the Vice President, Her Excellency Jessica Lupo, the Minister for Presidency, Honorable Babidie Mili Babalanda, the Head of Public Service, Miss Lucy Nacho, the Commander Air Force, Lieutenant General Charles Okidi for CDF, the Director Crime Intelligence Uganda Police Force, Brigadier General Christopher Ndamulira, and Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, Samuel Akena. Now, on his way, the President made a stopover in the United Kingdom where he addressed a business breakfast meeting organized by the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development in conjunction with the Commonwealth Enterprise Council. Benadiga with this report. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Sunday, December 11th, 2022, left for the United States of America to attend the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, D.C. at the invitation of President Joe Biden. At Entebbe International Airport, His Excellency Museveni was seen off by the Vice President, Her Excellency Jessica Lupo, the Minister for Presidency, Honorable Babidie Mili Babalanda, the Head of Public Service, Miss Lucy Nachobe, the Commander Air Force, Lieutenant General Charles Okidi for CDF, the Director Crime Intelligence Uganda Police Force, Brigadier General Christopher Ndamulira, and Deputy Commissioner General of Prisons, Samuel Akena. On his way, the President made a stopover in the United Kingdom where he addressed a business breakfast meeting organized by the Presidential Advisory Committee on Exports and Industrial Development in conjunction with the Commonwealth Enterprise Council. At the Royal Garden Hotel in Kensington, London, Museveni engaged with potential investors, fund managers, processors of food, and large commodity buyers. In his remarks, President Museveni said Uganda has no enemies in the world, hence willing and ready to work with everyone to tap into its agricultural and mineral potential. The president made a case for improved market share in the international scene for Uganda, but urged that would only happen following concerted efforts with potential visionary investors who identify with Uganda and Africa as the future production hub of the world.
The aim is to have low cost of money for manufacturing, for agriculture, and for some of the services, not all of them, some of the services. As I've told you, gambling is not one of the services I'm going to give low cost of money, or nightclubs. No, those would have to go to the commercial banks. So therefore, hear what my team are saying. is that if you want to make profits, there is an address I have come to tell you about. And this place is called P.O. Box Uganda. If you come to Uganda, you're likely to become a rich man. And if you're already rich, you will be even richer.
The head of state also commissioned trade envoys to the United Kingdom, Balkans and US to help further Uganda's investment agenda.
Present all.
In the United States, President Museveni attended the three-day U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit hosted by the President of the United States, Joe Biden, that looked fostering new economic engagements. His Excellency Museveni addressed the summit on the topic Partnering for Sustainable Health Cooperation, where he shared Uganda's best health practices and strategies that include preventive and curative healthcare services.
Uganda is therefore moving well on the issues of health. The pressure is to cause our doctors in the districts and nationally to put more emphasis on public health, avoid the sicknesses, instead of waiting for people to be sick and then get treated. That is how our population has risen from 14 million in 1986 to now more than 43 million, and it will be 106 million by 2050. So don't worry about this population. I know some people are worried about population, but Africa has actually been underpopulated. So when you are worried about population, don't worry about Africa.
While in United States of America, President Yoweri Museveni also held a breakfast roundtable meeting with a group of 40 American investors where he invited them to utilize the better and great investment opportunities that exist in Uganda and Africa. The talks targeted 4 areas for investment: agriculture and food processing, mining, tourism, and infrastructure. President Yoweri Museveni also met and held discussions with Victoria Nuland, the United States Undersecretary for Political Affairs. The two discussed a range of continental issues with key focus being the regional security challenges in East Africa. The Undersecretary expressed her government's appreciation to President Museveni and the government of Uganda for the efforts aimed at bringing peace and stability in the region. The Undersecretary also rooted for more cooperation between Uganda and the United States. He also met and held separate bilateral discussions with their Excellencies William Ruto of Kenya, Hassan Sheikh Mohammed of Somalia, and Felix Tshisekedi of DRC. The discussions focused mainly on insecurity in the region. General Museveni later met with the U.S. President, Dr. Joe Biden. On Friday the 16th of December 2022, President Museveni jetted to London, where upon arrival he was welcomed to Windsor Castle and had an audience with His Majesty King Charles III.
Presidential moves. Now, the year 2022 has come to a climax with the installation of the Right Reverend Paul Semwogedede as the 5th Archbishop of Kampala Metropolitan Diocese, replacing the late Dr. Cyprian Kizito Lwanga, who had died the previous year. The installation was among the major news events that made the rounds in the Catholic faith. Now, Robert Onyango with a recap of what transpired on January 25th, 2022 at St. Mary's Cathedral, Lubaga. Let's us have the report.
Born on 19th January 1953, Dr. Cyprian Kizito Lwanga succeeded Cardinal Emmanuel Wamala as the Kampala Metropolitan Archdiocese Bishop in a 19th August 2006 appointment before his installment on 30th September the same year. Lwanga, who happens to be the 4th Archbishop of Kampala, carried on this mantle until 3rd April 2021, a day he was pronounced dead. The late Dr. Cyprian Kizito was later laid to rest on 8th April 2021 at Lubaga Cathedral in Kampala. On 9th December 2021, the then Kasana Luweero Diocese Bishop Right Reverend Paul Semogerere, who upon the demise of Dr. Cyprian Kizito was charged with the duties of the diocesan keeper, was later appointed as his successor. His installment came in on 25th January 2022, making him the 5th Archbishop of the Great Archdiocese of Kampala.
I'm humbled to be assigned to lead this great Archdiocese of Kampala. I'm confident that the Lord Jesus Christ, who called my patron saint from Saul to Paul, whose solemnity of conversion we celebrate today, will also continue to guide me throughout my service to the people of God in the Archdiocese of Kampala, to whom I desire to remain a fellow strong believer, a humble servant, and a shepherd.
The event held at Lubaga Cathedral was attended by, among others, the Vice President of Uganda, retired Major Jessica Alupo, who represented the President of Uganda, His Excellency General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
Let me now take this opportunity to read the message of His Excellency, the President of Uganda. I take this opportunity to congratulate you, Archbishop Paul Semogerere, upon your installation as the Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Kampala. I thank the Almighty God for blessing the faithful of the Archdiocese of Kampala with a new and able leadership. The faithful have been waiting for this special occasion with fervent prayer and great expectation.
On 29th June 2022, the Archbishop was at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome to receive his pallium from Pope Francis. A pallium is a liturgical vestment worn by the Pope, Archbishops and some bishops in the Roman Catholic Church. However, the official handover ceremony of the pallium was held on 30th October 2022 at Lubaga Cathedral at an event presided over by the Pope Nuncio to Uganda, Right Reverend Bridge Bianco.
For the honor of the Church of the Archdiocese of Kampala, which has been placed in your care.
Since the pallium is traditionally connected to the papacy, it reinforces the unity of the bishops with the Pope, then symbolizes also the pastoral and judicial powers of a bishop. I ask you to pray for me to shepherd you well.
Since then, the Most Reverend has continued to carry on his pastoral duties under his jurisdiction.
I challenge you, old boys, parents, dear Christians, and people of goodwill, guided by the Holy Spirit, to bear ownership of this seminary and also become its benefactors and agents.
Semogerere's episcopal journey began on 4th June 2008 when he was appointed Bishop of Kasana Luweero, replacing Dr. Cyprian Kizito, who had been 2 years earlier elevated to the ranks of Archbishop of Kampala Metropolitan Archdiocese. Robert Onyango, UBC.
A dark cloud engulfed Uganda on the morning of Sunday, 20th March 2022, with death claiming the life of the Speaker of Parliament, Jacob Oulanyah. Oulanyah, who had become Speaker on the 24th of May 2021, breathed his last at a hospital in Seattle in the United States of America. Today we bring you events that transpired before his final send-off in Omoro District, in an occurrence that turned out to be one of the most covered news items of 2022. Henry Okru reports.
I come because it's a public show, but deep down I know we are going right back to practice the same damn corruption that we claim to fight.
The Jacob Oulanyah that you probably never knew sounded like this.
Do not wait to be anything else or anybody else to fight against corruption.
Known for being open-minded, speaking straight, and articulating issues made him a household name in Uganda.
Let's stop being corrupt. We all are guilty as charged.
This openness was cut short on the morning of Sunday, 20th March 2022. His death was officially announced by the head of state, attracting eulogies from across the country and beyond.
This is too much, because to lose a speaker who is number 3 in this country like this is not okay.
One activity after another followed. Had he lived up to 23rd March, he would have turned 57. Instead, family members celebrated his 57th birthday just 3 days after his death.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Speaker after speaker described the deceased as a generous man whose life was fully packed with humor.
This guy was not corrupt. Why do you scandalize the man? Because of power. Why? The guy is not corrupt. That's a fact. If you are corrupt, die alone. Leave Olanya.
Celebrants also took time to explain the cause of death of the legal icon. This followed media propaganda associating Speaker Jacob Olanya's death with poison.
That with my medical knowledge and background, I can confirm to the public that there is no issue of poisoning in the case of Jacob Olanya.
But not much could be done to give the deceased a befitting send-off in terms of national tributes. It was constitutionally required that his replacement was found before the body was brought to Parliament. Several people expressed interest, with some calling for a replacement from Acholi sub-region. One of those endorsed by fellow Acholi MPs was Engineer Hilary Onek, who is also Minister for Relief, Disaster Preparedness and Refugees. He turned down the offer, citing both personal and professional reasons.
Such a position will require somebody with legal background, and definitely an experience alone would make it slightly more difficult if one has less competence in that legal direction.
After a series of consultations, National Resistance Movement settled for then Deputy Speaker Anita Among.
Anita Among and Honorable Basalirwa Asuman.
She would later win the speakership seat with 401 votes against Asmani Basalirwa's 66.
And that I will support, uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda as by the law established. So help me God.
Upon settling in her seat, she presided over elections for Deputy Speaker, having resigned from that position. Thomas Taiwa beat Kyoga East Member of Parliament, Okot Bitek.
We are the leaders that God has chosen at this point in time to serve our people. I want to congratulate my brother, Okot Bitek.
With the leadership gap at Parliament successfully filled, it was time for the body of the deceased to be flown into the country. Speaker Anita Among, in company of a cocktail of other leaders, received Olanya's remains at Entebbe International Airport. The body would be transported to his residence in Muyenga, a suburb of Kampala. With the body in the country, it was time for members of Parliament to pay tribute to the fallen Speaker of the 11th Parliament. With pomp and color, the MPs described the deceased as down to earth with a well-created legacy.
Leaders of this country, if we can be humble, God will give us the wisdom that Jacob had. But if we remain proud, we shall fall and shame shall be on us.
This was conducted in a manner similar to what late South African musician Lucky Dube once described as different colors, one people. Most, if not all, opted to adopt the deceased mode of dress code, the bow tie. They gave reasons for this arrangement.
I have the pleasure and the honor of putting it on, and I'm happy that I'm putting it on today for my good friend and brother Olanya.
Right Honorable Jacob Olanya loved bow ties, ever in his life.
All of us as MPs feel a bow tie should be somewhere, whether you are a male or a female.
A day later, the body would be taken to Colorado Independence Grounds for a national service in honor of the deceased. The service was presided over by the Archbishop of the Church of Uganda, Right Reverend Samuel Stephen Kazimba Mugalu.
The graveyard is the richest place on earth because it is here that you find all the hopes and the dreams that were never fulfilled.
President Yoweri Museveni joined the service as the chief mourner.
Ugandans are looking for value in people, not just manipulating identity. With these few words, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the NRM, I want to salute the contribution of Olanya.
It was after this that Olanya's body was flown to Omoro district in northern Uganda in preparation for his burial. Henry Okurut, UBC.
Well, Mark, the only man in Uganda who was able to wear the bow tie and actually look good in it.
May his soul rest in eternal peace. I feel like he didn't serve a very long time, but yes, he still left an impact, and I think he was the people's choice, because if he won the vote, then I feel like that was the right person to lead, but perhaps God had another mission for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but then I'm also impressed by the way that Parliament had to move fast to make sure they replace, you know, a speaker, because the speaker position is number 3 in the country, next to the vice president. So it's only right that you don't leave such a place vacant for a very long time.
Absolutely.
Because then that causes mayhem within the system.
True.
You know, you won't have, you know, decisions being made. So I think kudos to government for that.
Absolutely. And of course, still, he's dearly missed. And may his soul rest in peace.
May his soul rest in eternal peace. Now, moving on, a number of parliamentary by-elections were held in different areas of the country. The ruling National Resistance Movement emerged victorious in all. Now, here is a step-by-step of what transpired in these exercises, including Soroti, Palisa, Kasese, and Chisoro.
The Soroti East parliamentary seat was among those that fell vacant after court nullified election of FDC's Moses Atan Okia over unclear boundaries. It was time to strategize on reclaiming the seat for both Atan and Herbert Ariko, who before had represented the area in parliament. Ariko, who had just joined the National Resistance Movement, had a task of convincing the flag bearer to step down in his favor, Jimmy Ekemu, who had held the flag in the previous elections, relinquished it for Ariko. Other independent NRM-leaning hopefuls stepped down.
I cannot see and watch opposition join hands together. Now with the coming of Bobby Wine for NUP to join FDC, then I also insist to remain as an independent candidate against my very own. It is being unfair.
This set the base and pace for Ariko's journey back to parliament.
Some people told you Ariko had brought here a bad city, that the city was going to take away your land, that the city was going to make you pay taxes for grass thatch houses and mabati houses. But today I see those leaders struggling very hard to lead the same city.
But it was not a walk in the park. On the other hand, FDC, whose candidate's election had been nullified, was ready for the showdown. Moses Atan was the first to be nominated, promising to resume from where he had been stopped.
Pursuant to the Parliamentary Elections Act 2005, declare Atan Okea Moses duly nominated as candidate to contest for election as Member of Parliament.
I asked for a term of 5 years. A term of 5 years cut short by the greed of a brother who leaves a job of 50 million to come and try to abuse the choice of the people.
Accompanied by other FDC party leaders, they all saw nothing before them but victory.
Our MP, now the candidate, was prosecuted over boundary issues, which even any common person can tell that it wasn't meant to be.
The nomination exercise continued the following day, with NRM's Herbert Ariko expressing readiness for round 2 in Soroti East. Ariko officially kicked off campaigns after successful clearance by the Electoral Commission. He campaigned door to door, seeking to replace FDC's Moses Atan. His ambition was to align Soroti City's quest for progress to the Sustainable Development Goals. The campaigns went on until the last day, when they were spiced with intensity. Herbert Ariko's own was graced by President Yoweri Museveni, who is also the chairman of the NRM party.
They have been voting for people I have never seen even anywhere.
Nara ilemu secretary itunga lumamga anyu torida adi seboy city kere.
Because if the MP was a member of our caucus,
MP lelo mto atukoto kosi ano parliament,
he would say, President, you promised your card land.
On the other hand, former FDC President Dr. Kiza Besigye rallied behind Moses Atan in the Soroti East by-election. Besigye was joined by National Unity Platform President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu in the campaigns. They were flanked by other FDC officials, including Party President Patrick Oboy Amuriat.
This election is not because Atan did not win. Nobody says Atan did not win, including Ariko.
With campaigns done, it was time for elections, which started on a controversial note.
You can see the turnout in Omalera B was less than 50%.
After successful casting and tallying, it ended in favor of NRM's Herbert Ariko, a victory that was disputed by FDC's Moses Atan.
Let us focus on seeing the few gains that we can pick up for the remaining term of this government, which is about 4 years, so that Soroti can also get opportunity to benefit from the intentions of the NRM government.
And we don't come here to congratulate Ariko. He knows deep in his heart, he has had to hurt people, he has had to cause people to be arrested, he has had to put our agents on gunpoint.
A similar exercise would be held in Gogonyo County, in Palisa District. Issa Taligola had successfully challenged the victory of Derek Orone, leading to a by-election. After a series of consultations, Taligola pulled out of the race, paving way for NRM candidate's victory. Similar success was registered in Bukimbiri County, in Kisoro District. Eddie Kwizera's victory had successfully been challenged by Forum for Democratic Change's James Owebey over non-compliance with the electoral laws. He, however, reclaimed his seat in a hotly contested poll. Similar to this was the by-election for Busongora South County in Kasese District. The seat fell vacant on June 21st when the Court of Appeal ruled that Gideon Thembo Mujungu of NRM was irregularly elected. He, however, reclaimed his seat.
There is a lot of really organization in NRM that now when you go to campaign, you go as a united force which can't be penetrated by the opposition.
Area leaders attributed all the victories to the NRM unity and successful penetration of former opposition strongholds. Henry Okrut, UBC.
This year, over 30 people died in floods that occurred in Mbale district, arising from locals constructing in wetlands and along riverbanks. Though the floods are occasional, each time they surface, lives are lost, plantations destroyed, infrastructure damaged, and animals killed. The measures to address the issue remain temporary, with no lasting solution. In respect to those who lost lives, UBC's Ivan Kawa profiles the incident that befell the people of Mbale.
The year 2022 has not gone down well for the people residing on the Elgon ranges of eastern Uganda. Torrential rains caused running water to reclaim original territories, sweeping residential structures, plantations, and drowning people. The waterfalls from the mountains, characterized with powerful pressure, affected people who are settled majorly along riverbanks and wetlands.
We have been hit hard by the torrential rains that came on Saturday night when people were all asleep.
I am told 11 people were sleeping in this house before it got destroyed. As of now, they are seeking shelter all over the village because they had no option but to abandon this specific area.
Had to help him bring out his things.
Naruwama Hawa, a resident in Busajjabwankuba, whose structure is erected in the path of a river, tested the wrath of the running waters.
Because we are nearby the river, yeah, that could be the problem.
Her domestic animals and food were swept away. She says this was the fourth time such an incident occurred.
Since I came into this place, yeah. But this time round it was worse, yeah.
I'm told you people are busy, settled on the riverbanks. Do you think it is proper for you to stay along the riverbanks? Aren't you risking your lives?
True, some people are around the riverbanks, but where we are right now, it has not only come to the riverbank. For us, we are 1.5 kilometers away from the riverbank.
When the flood comes, the scenes clearly indicate that houses are constructed in vulnerable places, though locals welcome government's move to relocate them.
Through not only getting for them where they can be, but they can still provide them and they buy out the land, the plots, the lands where people are occupying for now. And they go and look for a better place to where they can settle without these kind of landslides.
The people are willing to shift from those places. But there is an unfortunate part of it is that some of our political leaders, because of wanting for cheap political popularity, would like to turn relocation of people from the wetlands to mean that the government wanted to cheat them or what to do that as a malice. That is what has affected the relocation act.
The calamity turned into a health threat for those whose toilets were destroyed by the floods.
The toilets are full and you have nowhere to go. We still have to utilize the same toilets, so it is really becoming challenging to our people and the children at homes.
A rather unfortunate incident occurred at Nabuyonga River, where 10 people drowned in a vehicle swept off the road as they were traveling for an introduction in Butebo district. These were retrieved by locals, security agencies, and Red Cross workers. Vehicles and motorcycles were out of sight from the rivers where they submerged.
We have fear that there are still many bodies inside there.
The main road was closed, a highway. And there is police in this region. They could not block the roads to really stop traffic from moving. Really? And whoever is in charge has not resigned. That people can drown driving, and there is police in this area.
Many structures affected by flooding in Mbale are evidently erected along riverbanks, and construction of other structures in wetlands is a routine.
But the question is, where is government and the leadership when such constructions are taking place in the places that are not supposed to be constructed in?
We are only betrayed by some of our officials charged with issuing permits and also making environmental assessment.
There are poor construction policies and builders not following the physical plans of the town, and this exposed the poor city's planning department.
Because government doesn't have a policy of saying that don't carry out an environmental assessment, an environment impact assessment, and also issue a permit where you are not supposed to issue. We don't have that policy. The law forbids that.
Transport in the district went to a standstill when the water overpowered the available infrastructure. Locals had to improvise and divert their routes. Plantations were buried under the debris on a large scale, and many were left with hardly anything to feed on.
Ojamoka kasoli n'otunda n'osomesako omwana biki kakati enkuba yajja mwana waffe nga amazzi gali kututwala n'ennyumba n'ebitooke nze nenvaamu n'enziruka emisinde naye abamu abaana bagenda era twazise ejjo.
Nursery beds were also not spared.
Olaba okubanyizibwa n'embeera yereeta ekintu ekyo. Wobera ng'oli bulungi ogenda n'opangisa awalala n'okola ki n'ofunawo ekifo naye ng'afu embeera yeegira olubuto lwerigira nga tetulina buyambi.
So, are you aware that you're not supposed to operate in such an area because whenever it floods, you people are prone to being affected? You do not work, you lose a lot of money simply because you're operating in a wetland.
What we are also doing doesn't interfere with the NEMA. Know that this project, as you hear it, for trees and flowers, people can come and buy, take to the communities, and even here what we are doing, you can even witness. We have some that we try to allow them to grow. Actually, we don't dig, but what we are doing is that it can be movable.
Government, with support from NGOs, responded with relief to support locals affected by the flood.
Mbale City leadership has received another consignment of non-food relief items to support the people who are affected by the floods in Mbale district that killed over 20 people. Among the non-food relief items received at the city regional block include hand-washing facilities, taplings, reusable sanitary pads and other items used to clean houses.
And as in Mbale City, we are very happy. We have received these things for our people who really suffered in this disaster. And we are very thankful. They have given us this help. And as well, we wish for other an organization who are really in support, they can support us because we still need the possible because those people, they are not really in the mood.
The office of Prime Minister saw it wise that let the office send food as an emergency as we wait for the compilation of the entire data, what we call the needs assessment report. So the needs assessment report has not been finalized yet because data is still incoming for the people who are greatly affected by the floods. And it's not only food, we need also to identify other non-food items that may be needed. I therefore urge those who are going to be in the field to distribute this food to make sure that they give to the real people who are affected. Short of that, I'm going to arrest anybody who is going to play around with this food of the people who are affected. Therefore, I flag off this food.
Akawunga kwensawe emu elimu ekira 5. Kate kilo 5 kagabaniwa abantu bameka 5. Lezo kilo 10. Ebijanjalo bilimu ekilo 5 buli kasawo. Ekilo akasawo kakamu kagendamu abantu 10. Lezo kilo meka 5.
So they will have temporary shelter constructed for them, as we also wait for the comprehensive plan to resettle them.
Let me thank them also. I'm joining them in appreciating the food and other non-food items that you have actually delivered. But those are not sustainable. We do not need those handouts. We need a lasting solution to this challenge.
We should begin sensitizing people to move out of all those disaster-prone areas as a mitigation to this problem we are having. And also ensuring that the enforcers of environmental laws step up so that we don't find people constructing any wetlands, and also ensuring that those who are already there are mobilized out. Government has secured land. You see there is land in Burambuli here, we have land in Chiliandongo, and is still continuing to get land for those families or households which will be affected with the relocation.
We are calling the victims to come and we distribute. And according to our computation, we are looking at how big the family is.
All was done. Food relief offered. Plans to relocate those affected mentioned. But what remains unclear is as to whether those still occupying vulnerable territories have guarantee of immunity if the floods reoccur. Efforts to get a comment from the district planner over the distribution of construction permits in prohibited areas have remained futile. Ivan Kahwa, UBC News in.
Thank you, Ivan Kahwa, for that report. Mark, just looking at that story, you realize that there's been lack of strict implementation of not constructing and homes next to wetlands or riverbanks, but still the locals continue to construct in those places, and that's what's causing all these floods.
I like what the gentleman mentioned. He was doing his business within a wetland, but his business was a movable business, selling flowers and the likes, yeah? But I feel like still there needs to be strict implementations from the policy makers on ensuring. I think even earlier within this year, I saw a number of people being chased out of a certain wetland here in Kampala. And despite the fact that it was a sad occurrence of events, it was justified because you never know when some of these things happen. Absolutely. Yeah, so I think let's look forward into 2023 and see that we can be able to beat some of these things without, taking long. In other news, Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs definitely provides the policy framework to the armed forces to discharge their responsibilities in the context of the defense of the country. Now, 2022, the ministry undertook its mandate to safeguard the citizens, maintaining peace and security in the country despite hiccups of insecurity enraged on national security by a Uganda-based rebel group in the Congo, the ADF. A bomb blast also and internal rebel activities characterized by the threat and overstrained the defense budget. Now, UBC's Haruna Mutesa Asira looks at the defense sector performance review in the 3 quarters of the financial years running. Let's take a look.
The Ministry of Defense and Veterans Affairs is a ministry responsible for national defense and security of Uganda. Its mandate is to strengthen and build strategic security capacity to address both internal and external threats. In the finance budget 2022-2023, the defense sector was allocated Uganda shillings 3.9 trillion to boost peace, security and stability, to enhance the enforcement of the rule of law to remain the key among government priorities. 2022 defense sector encountered a number of challenges, includes the bomb attack in Kampala by ADF terrorists and numerous rebel activities within the country.
We have done what is necessary to keep
law and peace in this country. But it's also important that the citizens need to be doing their part because of foundation security. Because foundation security is done by the citizens and the civil police.
The joint security agencies investigated suspected rebel activities after the anti-government leaflets were circulated in several areas of Mityana and Kiboga district in the month of July 2022. Suspects were arrested and arraigned in the courts of law waiting for trials.
The existence of local councils is indeed intended to help security agencies to maintain law and order in the country. So maybe we need to cross-check the level of appreciation by the local councils of their responsibility in their areas.
The Ministry of Defense flagged off the 41st Tarehe Sita anniversary celebrations in Mbale by UPDF.
Tarehe Sita 2022. This year's theme, retracing the people's struggle for peace and security for a modern Uganda.
Tarehe Sita civil military engineering works embarked on construction of 2 classroom blocks at Imoni Primary School, construction of outpatient waiting shed at Namakwekwe, and unveiled more oxygen plants at Mbale Hospital. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Kaguta Museveni, commissioned the first National Defense College in Uganda at Naminya, Njeru Town Council in Bikwe District.
People wasting money going out for these courses outside. Why don't you do it here? And as General Mbadu was saying, it took some time, but I congratulate you. Now you have taken off.
The college is meant to save a lot of money that the force has been injecting into facilitating training of its officers abroad in countries like South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Egypt, USA, and UK.
28th of January 2022, we are very happy to witness the commissioning of the college, whose motto is leadership with knowledge.
The defense sector also facilitated hosting of 12th East African Community Armed Forces Command Field Training Exercise, Ushirikiano Imara. The objective was to promote the East African Community Integration Agenda by enhancing joint state of readiness of East African Community.
It is purposed to practice the East African Community Partner States Armed Forces, civilians and other key holders and other key stakeholders in planning and conducting operations in an integrated manner.
UPDF Chief for CIMIC, Brigadier General Emmanuel Rashande, led the UPDF contingent to Zanzibar and Tanzania to participate in the 4th East African Community Armed Forces CIMIC activities. General Kaguta Museveni, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, promoted Lieutenant General Muhoozi Kainerugaba to full general. He subsequently also promoted Operation Suja Commander Major General Muhanga Kayanja to Lieutenant General and appointed him as the new commander of land forces. He was replaced by Major General Dick Olum. The President also promoted Major General Sam Okiding to the rank of Lieutenant General and deployed him as Force Commander, Africa Transition Mission in Somalia. Despite these promotions, the force lost one of its historical general, Eri Tumwine, who had been battling with lung cancer for some time but lost the battle of it at Aga Khan Hospital in Nairobi, Kenya. The Bushwo Hero was the longest serving chairman of the UPDF General Court Martial, permanent member to the Army Council High Command, and UPDF representative in Parliament. He was expected to retire with the other 48 generals of the UPDF who were retired at a ceremony held at State House Entebbe.
I thank God for this day, for enabling us to travel this road together.
Among the notable ones was RO 0031 General David Sejusa, former coordinator of intelligence services, Lieutenant General Andrew Guti, formerly chairman of the General Court Martial, and Lieutenant General Mugume John, among others. In another development on the defense sector performance review, President Museveni commissioned 102 Special Forces Command Officers housing units at Lunyo in Entebbe municipality.
Along the way, we said no, the time has come to start doing something about the accommodation. We have been handling food, clothes, and weapons for soldiers. We are now handling a little bit of salaries. But also, let's handle the issue of accommodation.
As part of enhancing UPDF security and defense cooperation with other foreign states, the Minister of Defense, Vincent Amulanga Kisempija, signed a memorandum of understanding with the National Forensic Science University of Gujarati, India. In the attempt to respond to the future external and internal security threats of the country, the defense sector undertook a comprehensive program to recruit Ugandans into the National Army. The recruitment exercise attracted composed and patriotic Ugandans ready to serve in professional and specialized units. On the external front line, Uganda and DR Congo extended the joint military operation with the Democratic Republic of Congo to hunt down the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF. Under the agreement codenamed Operation Suja, UPDF and FRDC deployed a joint force in areas controlled by the ADF and share intelligence. In a nutshell, boosting the defense budget would be the bedrock of socio-economic transformation of Uganda. Haruna Mutesasira, UBC.
As we draw to the end of the year 2022, the conclave of heads of state to the East African Community member states committed to deploy a joint East African standby force to the war-torn North Kivu province of the Democratic Republic of Congo to pursue M23 rebels that had proven to be a security threat to the Kinshasa-based government. The resolution to deploy followed the overrun of government forces by the rebels in June this year, when the rebel outfit took control of Bunagana town for a period of 5 months until October 2022. Now, as Philip Aguta reports, the crisis didn't only affect the cross-border between Uganda and the DRC, but forced thousands of refugees to flee to Uganda through Bunagana, hence constraining service delivery in host communities.
M23, which means March 23rd, is a group of former rebels of the National Congress for the Defense of the People. After an agreement between the CNDP and the Congolese government on March 23, 2009, the aggrieved group who opposed the agreement later formed the M23 rebel group that has caused mayhem to the DRC, paralyzing trade with neighboring countries. It was on Monday 13th June 2023 when M23 rebel group captured a crucial Bunagana town near Chisoro that facilitates inter-border trade between Uganda and DRC. Despite of Bunagana takeover by the M23 rebels, the spokesperson of the rebel outfit, apparently indicted by the International Criminal Court for committing war crimes and crimes against humanity, Major Willy Ngoma, claimed that Bunagana and North Kivu province is at ease working with them than the government.
Lakini usome ile vizuri sana. Ile communique aiseme ke sisi tutoke Bunagana. Hapana, walisema sisi tutoke Bunagana. Abakusema sisi tutoke Bunagana. Communique iko mzuri, usome ile mzuri sana. Sie tunashukuru wale wa viongozi gisi bali hukumu sana sana maneno kunapita ndani ya Kongo ya mauaji. Ili tunabashukuru sana kabisa na hiyo. Lakini abakusema sisi tutoke Bunagana. Tunajua ke banasema tukue na mazungumuzo, na sisi tunapenda mazungumuzo ikue ndani yetu na serikali ya Kongo.
Following Ngoma's assertions, accusations and counter-accusations started playing out that neighboring states like Rwanda were aiding and abetting the M23 rebels, hence causing a diplomatic glitch between the member states. The Kinshasa-based government had to suspend Rwanda's ambassador to DRC and holding on to accredit Uganda's ambassador to DRC, the status quo still stands despite ongoing ceasefire talks in the capital, Nairobi. Rwanda claims that the DRC government is shielding the forces Democratic de Liberation de Rwanda, whose members participated in Rwanda's 1994 genocide, while Kinshasa claims that Kigali is aiding M23 rebels, majority of whom are ethnic Tutsi tribe. However, according to the UN Security Council report, Uganda is also accused of training and aiding the M23 rebels, a matter that Ugandan government has denied. Despite the partial ceasefire, the takeover of Bunagana town and border posts by M23 rebels affected cross-border trade and Congolese civilians fleeing their country to neighboring Uganda. There was food crisis, disease outbreaks, and thousands of refugees refused to be taken to the demarcated camps, but instead flooded Bunagana town that brought the town to a standstill.
They have to go to gazetted places. So the market is not a gazetted place. The school compound is not a gazetted place. And under the forest is not a gazetted place. All these asylum seekers must report to Nyakabande, they get registered, and then they go to the settlements.
This situation was a matter of concern to the East African Community member states, and the consideration to deploy an East African standby force to avert the crisis and stabilize the region was timely.
Watakuja tafuta amani juu ya Wakongomani, na sisi tunapenda hiyo amani, tunataka hiyo amani. Raia yetu iishi ndani ya amani. Watu wasikuwe na wasiwasi. East African Community iwezi kuya tupiga sisi. Hapana, hapana, hapana. Watakuja tafuta amani, tutatafuta amani sisi wote juu ya Kongo, juu ya Wakongomani. Watu wakuwe na wasiwasi.
With the peace talks being mediated by former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, there seems to be a ray of hope that peace and stability will return to the war-torn North Kivu province in the DRC should both parties hit to the terms and conditions of the ceasefire agreement. Mtonyi Hilda and Philip Aguta, UBC.
Now, a review into the performance of the Ministry of Works and Transport this year ending indicates that the sector managed to tarmac 590 kilometers of the roads, out of which 287 kilometers in the Albertine Graben area, which is almost more than half of those roads. Now, speaking about the performance of the sector, the Line Minister for Works and Transport, General Katumba Wamala, says that the transport infrastructure is key to development and the tarmacking of the roads is top on the agenda among the priority areas for the sector to improve the rural district roads. Details in this report.
Despite effects of COVID-19 on sector performances of many government ministries and agencies, the road sector in Uganda was not affected. Roads construction remained uninterrupted. Out of the 20,000 kilometers of roads earmarked for tarmacking, only 590 kilometers were tarmacked. Out of this, 287 kilometers are situated in the Albertine Graben area.
We have a total of 20,000 kilometers. Of these now, about 590 are already tarmacked. Recently, we added 287 kilometers of tarmacked road, especially within the oil belt. So we have been moving steadily in terms of increasing our tarmac on the national road network. But we got a setback. We've just got a setback because some of the projects couldn't move as fast as we had expected, and this was because of COVID.
Whereas COVID-19 caused several budget cuts of ministries and agencies of government, the Ministry of Works remains committed to complete the unfinished projects as well as rehabilitating and carry on road maintenance of critical roads. The maintenance and rehabilitation of roads connecting the country for trade include Masakarakai Mutukula, Matuga Kapeka Industrial Park, Kikorongo Mpondwe, among others, will be improved despite the visible breakdowns on the roads due to overloading, heavy rains and accidents. In the Greater Kampala, the Ministry of Works and Transport has teamed up with Kampala Capital City Authority to build Kampala Potibel, Salama Road and Chibuye Busabala, among others.
Also, we are working with the KCCA because the issue of road network, much as those are city roads, but we have also agreed with the KCCA after getting some funding that they look for some of the most critical roads to ensure that these critical roads are very passable. For example, the one to Port Bell, Kampala Port Bell, that one should be looked at. Of course, we have Salama Road. It has been long overdue.
The Kampala flyover, whose plan is to scale down on traffic jam in the Central Business District, the first phase of its completion will be in August 2023, and the second phase will take off immediately.
We think will be handed over by August next year. That is phase 1 of the project. We have phase 2, which will pick off from Mukwano over the Kitugum Junction. Part of it will go on Yusuf Lule Road, and then the other arm will go up to down at ShopRite, or what you call Game on Ginger Road. So these are projects which will be going. The rehabilitation of Kampala Ginger Road to Maraba, that one will continue.
The sector also experienced a number of road accidents due to reckless driving on roads and having unregulated border industry, which is the contributing factor to many of the accidents in Kampala. The burning of tires on roads by demonstrators has destroyed many roads. Overloading and vandalizing of road signs have been major challenges that have characterized the sector this year. Salongo Fred Kasibante compiled this report.
This year ending, Parliament passed over 15 bills, out of which 70% were private member bills. However, most controversial was the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill 2022 and the Human Organ Transplant Bill 2022. All these were passed and assented by the President. This literally means less business was brought to the House by the leader of government business, as Susan Nawonga reports.
Parliament is mandated to legislate, pass laws and pre-legislative scrutiny of bills referred to committees as one of its functions. The pre-legislative scrutiny is a detailed examination of an early draft of a bill that is done by a parliamentary select committee before the final version. Through this function in 2022, the 11th Parliament managed to pass over 10 bills, including the Electricity Amendment Bill 2022 and the most controversial Computer Misuse Amendment Bill 2022, which all received presidential approval.
Honorable members and the August House, grant me leave to introduce a private members bill entitled the Computer Misuse Amendment Bill, a draft of which is attached.
The Computer Misuse Act was received amidst contestation owing to some clauses said to have a limitation on freedom of speech and allegedly targeting individuals.
They find any Ugandan reading a bill passed by Parliament. It's very rare. What Ugandans are looking for is service delivery. There are services on the grassroots. You can pass even 1,000 bills, but if the bills cannot match with the interests of the population, it becomes somehow mere passing of the bills.
The intention of amending the Computer Misuse Act was to improve the provisions on unauthorized access to information, prohibit the sharing of information relating to a child without authorization from the parent or guardian.
We have brought up the fact that some of the proposals in Honorable Muhammadi's amendment are already existing in certain laws. So we want, and then that would create more overlaps. But now we are saying, no, we want to create one whole encompassing bill within the digital transformation space.
It was also to prohibit the sending or sharing of information that promotes hate speech and to provide for prohibition of sending or sharing false information. One of the penalties prescribed in this law is that a person convicted of any offense under this law is prohibited from holding public office for a period of 10 years. However, this amendment met dissenting voices from the opposition on the floor of Parliament, despite justifications made by the mover of the bill that found its way to the House as a private member's bill.
What Ugandans are calling for is the constitutional amendment concerning the elections, the presidential term limits, the age limits, all those things.
Other bills include the Museum and Monument Bill 2022, the Human Organ Donation and Transplant Bill 2022, and the 7 tax bills.
Honourable colleagues, I put the question that the Uganda Human Organ Donation and Transplant Bill be read the third time and do pass. Those in favour say aye, and the contrary nay. The ayes have it.
The Human Organ Donation and Transplant Bill 2022 intended to establish a legal framework for regulation of organs, cells and tissue donation and transplantation.
Unclaimed patients, accident has happened, they've just brought that patient, no relative is there, and you can't make any inquiry from that.
It's a life sentence for anyone who removes a human organ, tissue or cell from a living donor without consent, and a shillings 10 million penalty to corporate bodies for being involved in human organ trade. Other bills include the tax bills 2022, like the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2022, the Stamp Duty Amendment Bill 2022, the Tax Appeals Tribunal Amendment Bill 2022, the Tax Procedures Code Amendment Bill 2022, the Traffic and Road Safety Amendment Bill 2022, Uganda Revenue Authority Amendment Bill 2022, the Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2022, and the Excise Duty Amendment Bill 2022. It's worth noting that although bills measure lot in performance of Parliament, their consideration or intention should not in any way infringe on any human rights or discriminatory in nature. Susan Naonga reporting for UBC TV.
And relatedly, Parliament also passed the Uganda Human Organ Donation and Transplant Bill 2022, setting tough penalties for dealing in human organs for commercial purposes. The proposed law will enable organ transplants to happen in the country for the first time, transforming the lives of thousands hoping for operations. Now, reporter Zara Abigaba interviewed several medical experts on the readiness the country is for when it comes to organ harvesting and donation this year ending.
But if we can have it even in 10 days, that would be better.
On 5th July 2022, Health Minister Dr. Jane Ruth Acheng tabled Uganda Human Organ Donation and Transplant Bill 2021 for its first reading at Parliament. The bill seeks to establish a legal framework for regulation of organ, cell and tissue donation and transplant. Dr. Charles Ayume, the chairperson Parliamentary Committee on Health, says the country only needs enabling law for smooth organ harvesting and transplant.
And for kidneys, which is usually the most celebrated organ, because once we are able to harvest and transplant kidneys, then we have kind of arrived as a country, because it's a stubborn organ and yet its functions are quite well known. Now, our doctors will be able to work alongside certain doctors from India, the ones where we have MOUs.
Uganda soon will be joining the list of African countries like South Africa, Tunisia and Kenya, which have both the regulations, health facilities for organ transplants to be possible. At the moment, India and Turkey are the most popular destination for Ugandan kidney patients. Only close relatives are allowed to be donors, and trips have to be approved by the Uganda Medical Board to prevent organ trafficking or people being coerced to offer their organs.
We're going to start a bit slow. We'll probably do about 12 to 24 per year, then step it up as we gain confidence, as we improve on a few things. So the need is big. We're going to start small and build slowly. About the cost, it's not yet approved, and I'm not the person to talk about how much it will cost, but it will definitely be much lower than is happening in India or Turkey. And the Ugandan who has been spending money going to those countries will definitely be able to afford.
The proposal includes the creation of a national waiting list of organ recipients, as well as establishment of specialized transplant centers around the country. An operating theatre has already been set up at the main National Referral Hospital in Mulago. Organ banks will also be created for those who want to donate, not just for kidneys. The administration at Mulago National Referral Hospital says there are 40,000 patients with renal failure and require dialysis, and nationally there are about 400 patients with chronic renal failure and are accessing dialysis services. Currently, Mulago has over 100 patients that are on dialysis, and the hospital handles up to 50 dialysis sessions daily at the 6th floor. Drugs and medical supplies for the transplant are very expensive. Currently, they are not provided for in the budget, and this costs about 50 million per transplant. However, there is need for additional budget of close to 1 billion. Despite the challenges encountered, the Health Committee has milestones to talk about in their oversight role.
That we have really succeeded in was salary enhancement of health workers, doctors in particular, and at least that has been a very huge boost in terms of motivating the doctors. At least now we can start having conversations in terms of deploying some of these even senior doctors to these regional referral hospitals.
Zahara Abigaba, UBC News.
In the next phase of digital connectivity in Uganda, National Information Technology Authority seeks to expand electronic procurement services across all ministries, departments and agencies. The plan is contained in the upcoming 5-year Uganda Digital Acceleration Project that seeks to spur on current ICT infrastructure across all districts in the country. The Executive Director, NITA Uganda, Dr. Hatwib Mugasa, says the $200 million World Bank funded initiative also has 18% earmarked for cyber security. Henry Akurut with a report.
A number of our CEOs were saying that these contracts are awarded in restaurants to certain people who give bribes.
This was Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, Ministry of Finance, Dr. Ramadan Gowi. And this was part of his submission during the recent Presidential Chief Executive Officers Forum at Chobe Safari Lodge in Mwea District. His was the quest for expansion of e-procurement services across the country.
This will increase transparency and also give us the audit trail to be able to really follow up these people who are using our public resources to do corruption.
It is a plan and point of view shared and taken up by Uganda's digital promotion and monitoring body. National Information Technology Authority Uganda has in its next phase of ICT service provision lined up e-procurement as top among its priorities.
This is going to cut down the cost of procuring, the time and cost in the procurement process. It will also reduce or eliminate corruption.
Currently piloted in more than 22 ministries, departments and agencies. Expansion of the same will reduce on bureaucracy, middlemen and corruption.
We want to make it a digital procurement process in government, from the point of initiation of the procurement process to signing of the contract. We want that to all be digitized. You'll even sign digitally, and that is very hard to manipulate or to corrupt.
This is part of the 5-year Uganda Digital Acceleration Project, or UDAP, as goes its acronym. It is a $200 million World Bank funded undertaking, split into a loan of $140 million and a grant of $60 million. 18% of the funding is set aside for cybersecurity.
We are building a cyber war room. We have a national cybersecurity center, but we want even a bigger center that will monitor all the systems, all the traffic within Uganda.
Hard to reach areas are fully catered for, with plans to embrace underground and wireless connectivity integrated to reach island districts.
We want to have 80% of government services digitized. So 80% of all citizen-centric services to be digitized. All those manual processes where someone has to walk from one office to another office to receive a government service, we want to have it electronic, and that person has to just get onto his computer, type in his NIN, and the government shall provide services to him. That is our target for the next project.
Securing such funding is projected to save government more money on data storage and sharing, as has been the case in previous undertakings.
We are going to connect more than 20,000 government agencies. I say we need, there are almost maybe 1,000 systems. So just for the data center, we need about $20 million to enable us run it to optimal speeds for the whole of government. But these systems are currently running in those government agencies. We need them to come to the data center, and then that's when we'll be able to save government all this money.
Such digital agenda is what NITA has been doing for the last 11 years of its establishment, to the extent of earning Uganda a second position of the World Bank Global Tech Maturity Index in East Africa. Henry Okrut, UBC.
And on the other hand, embracing alternative dispute resolution mechanisms, recruitment of judicial officials at different levels like magistrates, judges and justices, among others. This has enabled judiciary to dispose of over 202,399 cases in the year 2022. Now, as we end this year, judiciary is also convinced of moving forward more service delivery than ever before and will be delivered in the year 2023. Pius Bijirimana, the permanent secretary to the judiciary, made a round of the milestones achieved and challenges in the year ending in this exclusive interview with our court reporter, Deborah Namamonde.
The judiciary is the third arm of government, and its contribution to the development of the country cannot be underestimated socially, economically and politically. In line with the Constitution, the judiciary is charged with the duty of promoting rule of law and to contribute to the maintenance of law and order in society, safeguard the Constitution, and uphold democratic principles, among others. To promote the above laws, judiciary has managed to put up mechanisms to ensure service delivery to Ugandans.
Judiciary operationalized additional 6 high court circuits, which brings the total number to 20 courts. And these courts are Iganga, Tororo, Moroto, Rukunjiri, Hoima, and Ruweru. The rehabilitation of Nabiratuk Magistrate Grade 1 is ongoing. It's at a painting level. The renovation of court building is ongoing. In Mbare, for example, High Court, Tororo Chief Magistrate Court, Paderi Chief Magistrate Court, Oyam Chief Magistrate Court, Katakwi.
In the year 2022, over 202,399 cases have been disposed of. These cases include those in Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Court and Magistrate Courts. Supreme Court disposed of 49 cases, Court of Appeal 508 cases, High Court 37,166 cases, and Magistrates Court 164,605 cases. The achievement was possible following the recruitment of 484 staff in the year 2022, and these include 3 justices of Court of Appeal, 3 justices of Supreme Court, 38 justices of High Court, 4 registrars, 11 deputy registrars, 6 assistant registrars, 42 chief registrars, 10 senior principal officers, 19 principal magistrate grade 1, 1 senior magistrate grade 1, 143 magistrate grade 1, and 200 for non-judicial staff.
The operationalization of the Administration of Justice program under the National Development Plan 3 to cater for all interests of all the institutions on the justice chain. And the chairman of this program is the Chief Justice. This program has started its work, and very soon the sub-programs will be meeting quarterly, and technical committees will be meeting monthly.
Among the 7 milestone achievements visible in courtrooms was the launch of the Electronic Court Case Management Information System, ICMIS, on 1st March 2022. The system has made the work of court users and judiciary easy in the year 2022.
Court recording and transcription equipment has been procured for criminal and family divisions, 18 kiosks to handle ICMIS phase 1 have been put in place so that people can do e-filing. They don't have to come with the files. And we have been training magistrates, even judges, transcribers, systems administrators. It has been done to make sure that people really get into the system.
Over the years, judiciary has been grappling with the challenge of case backlog and the alleged tendencies of corruption from the public.
There were 170,000 pending cases, of which 49,000 cases, which constitutes like 29.1%, were backlog.
Through the use of alternative dispute resolution mechanisms like pre-bargain, small claims procedure and mediation, this has registered a remarkable achievement in the year 2022.
Which is being done in the commercial division, in the civil division, the land division, and family matters. If we were to spend money according to the budget estimates, we would have spent more than 35 billion shillings. But disposing of these cases, we have spent only 10 billion. There is an economic implication of these cases if they stay in court.
Despite the above achievements, the sector has been faced with challenges, to some extent hindering service delivery.
Inadequate capacity of the Judicial Service Commission. Most of the court buildings are not only old, but also are small and inadequate to match the staff. Very crucial courts were operating from rented premises. You know, judicial officers cannot do much unless the investigations are done thoroughly. The construction of the Supreme Court building is ongoing at finishing stage. As you can see outside here, you see we have got the towers, the twin tower, and both of them are each 10 stories. And then we have got halls which can accommodate more than 500 people at one sitting. Each tower has got these towers. The Supreme Court is at 85% completion, while the Court of Appeal is at 75%. And we hope that by March, we should be able to enter the building. We shall continue to roll out small claims procedure, and we shall continue to make sure that actually we fight corruption. We shall continue to demand that outputs are realized consistent with the work plans. It's our duty to make sure that this is done.
Deborah Namamonde, UBC News.
The year 2022, now one can say that the social media space has been owned up by the Twitter general Muhoozi Kainerugaba, whose 48th birthday celebrations became a big thing in the country. The controversial general will also live to celebrate the year 2022. It's during that calendar that he obtained one of his lifetime dreams of becoming a 4-star general, a highest and topmost rank in Uganda's army. Robert Onyango with more.
The reopening of Gatuna border between Uganda and Rwanda was a breakthrough of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba into the public domain, for it was through his effort.
Trucks from Uganda into Rwanda are welcome. Trucks from Rwanda into Uganda are welcome.
Shortly after the border reopening, Muhoozi's birthday celebrations almost became a household talk. On 23rd April 2022, hundreds of supporters of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba took to the Kampala streets to celebrate his 48th birthday. The main celebrations was at Lugogo Cricket Oval grounds in Kampala, and in attendance were members of the cabinet led by Prime Minister Robin Anabanja, the army chiefs, business community, the general public, and the celebrant himself.
We thank you, General, for building a very strong security around the national chairman of the party and president of the Republic of Uganda.
I want to thank you
for the contributions you have given this country in terms of security. I want to thank you.
First of all, I want to thank God for letting me live up to this day and for taking me through everything He has taken me through in life.
On 24th April 2022, State House Entebbe was a feasting point for the 48-year-old boy and son to the president.
48th birthday.
First of all, I want to start by thanking Almighty God for letting me live up to 48 years and taking me through everything He has taken me through.
This was hosted by President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni and the First Lady Janet Kataha Museveni.
I want to thank my parents, Mzee Museveni and Mama Janet.
I tell you, Mhozi, that you must strive in all you do in this life to remember to love God with all your heart and fear Him.
Mhozi was a gift to us in our young days of struggle.
In attendance were high-end dignitaries, including the Rwandan President, General Paul Kagame.
I want to thank in a very special way His Excellency, President Paul Kagame, for honoring my invitation.
I want to thank His Excellency Paul Kagame for responding positively to Moses' invitation and coming to pay a visit to Uganda.
So far, what we know, what we've been told, what is true, is that the 48 years have been used very well.
The celebrations came to an end with a thank you party held at Entebbe Cricket Oval Grounds on May 7, 2022. Later celebrations turned into parties, and these were thrown across various parts of the country.
I hope you happy now. I see you flexing in your garbage.
In promoting sports, and this is one of them.
Though he has been written about by the elites, praised, promoted, celebrated and decorated, on the other hand he has faced a lot of criticism in the year 2022. On what lies ahead for him in the coming year 2023, no one can tell, but reading through the lines, General Muhoozi Kainerugaba might bounce back in a new style, fresh like never before. Robert Onyango, Kampala.
And yes, still in the year 2022, at least 40 schools experienced fire incidents which claimed lives of juveniles. Now, police's consistent reports on these fires implicate school management for failure to comply with the Ministry of Education and Sports regulations in the operation of schools, more so with dealing with fire. Now, especially boarding schools. In this report, we bring some of the fire incidents that rocked the year 2022, as Abdul Nasir Rubama reports.
Despite having in place proper regulations like Education and Occupational Safety Health Acts, the year 2022 was rocked with an unprecedented number of school fires. Majority of these fires occurred in private schools with unclear motive.
Right now, we are doing forensic analysis. We are trying to investigate the cause of fire.
2 incidents of school fires in June were attributed to undisciplined pupils allegedly torched their dormitories. One happened at Young Elite Primary School in Kasokso, where 11-year-old Muyanja Annan Ramadan, a P4-year pupil, torched the dormitory, and another one, HM Junior School, Nabingo, where 16-year-old student Mutuama Aminadab in P7 burnt the school that he was tired of.
Might not arrest the headmaster if he doesn't have it today, but he promises that he will have it next time. So it's an engagement process so that all of us understand that in order to save this, we need ABCD. It cannot be police alone, it has to be the other ways also.
In the month of June, at least 5 schools were burnt. Among these include Haven High School in Ibundibujo, where boys' dormitory was burnt. In Iganga High School, also boys' dormitory caught fire, destroying property worth millions.
Majority of these fire outbreaks have occurred in privately owned boarding schools, except for 2 government schools, mainly Makerere College School and Kabalega S.
On the 26th of October 2022, one 12-year-old pupil perished in the fire that caught the dormitory of Good Times Primary School in Kawala. Another incident happened at Kibedi Junior School, and another fire incident was reported at St. Mary's the Patrick's Girls SS in Entebbe.
6 have been established as a result of suspected arson, deliberate burning.
The dormitory blaze at Salama School for the Blind in Mkono District involved 11 blind children who died as they slept at night.
To make their potential, whatever the dreams they have in future. So they are going to have a decent burial with the support from government of Uganda.
Police reports shows the fire incidents were a result of poor management and neglect of standard operating procedures set by the Ministry of Education and Sports.
There were agreed guidelines between the schools and the Ministry of Education. One of them was that you should not have these burglars in doors or in windows, so that whenever fire breaks out, the students should be able to get out in time.
Poor building plans also contributed to a large number of casualties.
So some places were not accessible enough. The way they are built, sometimes you find accessing the burning building becomes difficult. To ensure that as you build your school, there should be access almost to every structure.
Deadly school fire in 2022 reawakened the safety concerns and engagement between school managers, security, officials from the Ministry of Education and Sports, and the community. Requirement of fire extinguishers on school blocks, training of school staff on firefighting, and encouragement of good building practices must be adopted for the safety of learners. Abdul Nasir Lubwama for UBC.
When the country opened fully after 2 years of lockdown due to COVID-19, little did anybody know that another deadly virus would surface shortly. Around September 20th, 2022, the country woke up to the horrific news of a deadly disease emerging from Kasanda and Mubende districts. However, the Ministry of Health's efforts was not in vain, although the World Health Organization has not yet declared the country Ebola-free. At least nobody is suffering from the Ebola virus disease. We have more details in this report.
It was a sigh of relief when President Museveni reopened the economy in January 2020, following warning COVID-19 impact in the country. This was mainly after a number of vaccines were introduced and the percentage of the population vaccinated. However, before people could settle down, there was an announcement of Ebola Sudan virus disease outbreak tearing through the districts of Kasanda and Mubende, and later to Jinja, Kampala, Masaka, Bunyangabo, Chegegwa, Kagadi, Wakiso and Chibale. With its horrifying signs, Ebola put the country on tenterhooks. The medical fraternity was equally impacted, with 6 of them succumbing to the virus.
Even when people believe there is no Ebola, we've lost our own. People who are supposed to be helping you. We remember the doctor who died in Mobende, plus the person who is anarchist in Mosirisa.
A number of people succumbed to the deadly Ebola virus disease, some locals attributing it to witchcraft, while to other Ugandans, it was a prank by Ministry of Health officials.
For us, we know the health workers went to train and to give a service to the community. It is when they are giving the community that they are rewarded with a raw material called salary, which salary they go and multiply elsewhere. And everybody else who works actually also earns money. So we don't say that because you work at a funeral home you want people to die, but it's your end job.
Any single case of Ebola epidemic has the potential to spread to anybody within no time, and survival for Ebola is minimal if not handled urgently.
Once it starts infecting people, the people start spreading it to the next person. It is spread from one person to another through body fluids, which include saliva and blood and sweat, including the fact that if we eat on the same plate, you're sick. If we sleep in your same clothes, we share clothes. If I try to treat you and take care of you.
Dr. Chabayinza explains the incubation period.
Before you show any signs and symptoms, you are not yet able to infect others. But the moment you are able to show signs and symptoms, then you have become infective. So that teaches us when do we expect the incubation to last.
Ebola is caused by a virus which lives in non-primates and other animals like monkeys, apes, bats, and it's a disease which moves from a population and comes and affects people. Once a person tests positive to Ebola virus disease, extra caution has to be taken to contain the spread of the illness. Victims are advised to practice personal hygiene by immediately and thoroughly washing with soap, sanitizing always, keep social distance, and avoiding soft parts. Ebola virus may persist in some body fluids, including seminal fluids, pregnancy-related fluids, and breast milk, not until one posts negative twice to rule out the virus. Symptoms of Ebola virus disease can be sudden and include fever, fatigue, muscle pain, headache, and sore throat. This is followed by vomiting, diarrhea, rash, symptoms of impaired kidney and liver function. In severe cases, both internal and external bleeding, for example, oozing from the gums or blood in the stools, begin. According to scientists, at the time one starts bleeding, internal organs like liver and kidney have failed. I asked Dr. Chabayinza if there has been an incident of survival at this stage.
I know there are some people who have survived by the grace of God. I know people who bled and they were able to recover. I will need to look at the current numbers and say at what level have those who have survived. There are some doctors long ago who survived when they were working in Sierra Leone who fell sick and even at end stage survived. However, we need to ask our clinicians at what symptoms you say when this happens, it's almost impossible to revive.
Health experts are also advised to apply extra infection control measures to prevent contact with the patient's blood and body fluids.
Health workers are at the highest risk because when people are sick, they come to us. So we touch them, we show tender care and love, and then in the process, the health workers are infected. Before we can detect that this, your saliva or touching you or your sweat is going to make me infected.
Uganda has trained medical personnel to handle any outbreak, unlike in the past when samples would be taken to South Africa. Mutanyi Hilda, UBC.
And now into the world of sport. You definitely know that sport is without a doubt the most adorable social gathering there can ever be in the world. Now many in Uganda attach sport so much, they attach so much importance to their sport of choice and follow them rigorously. At UBC, we cover all, and 2022 has provided us with highs and lows as we lived in no particular order to when they happened. By John Barnes Sentamo.
At the advent of 2022, many ushered in the new year with fireworks and merrymaking. These included sports personalities and their ardent followers in anticipation of better tidings after almost 2 years under lockdown. And behold, what a year we've had, with many highs and lows. During a year in which several international engagements were lined up, news of the increased budgetary allocation to 47 billion shillings for the sports subsector whetted the appetite.
It was one of the best years where we were able to fill in the highest number of athletes, which is a very big achievement for council and government. One of the targets we set is increasing youth participation in sport, not only at local level, but also at international level. We believe that the exposure we have given to these athletes in these all world championships, continental championships, has a lot to do with the career development path. And definitely we expect better in the coming year.
The money ensured Uganda qualifies, prepares and presents athletes for all major international events highlighted by the World Athletics Championships in the US, the Commonwealth Games in the UK and the Islamic Games in Turkey.
I note also that it is important to note that we are at the level of Africa. We are winning, we are champions of many events. Cricket, for example, men and women. Rugby sevens, we are the current champions. In the netball, we finished second in Africa. We also have badminton, we are not doing badly, we finished third. A number of federations have qualified their national teams for Africa Cup of Nations finals. You know, football, the women were in Morocco in July. We also had other competitions at the level of the World Cup. For example, lacrosse men participated in Highland and performed quite well. Ludo is a sport we are current African champion, but also world champion.
At the World Championships, Joshua Cheptegei defended his 10,000 meter crown, while Oscar Chelimo claimed bronze in the 5,000 meters.
I'm still young. I will make it. Have like more 20 years. So don't worry about the silver or bronze. I will do it. I promise.
Shortly after, more glory followed for Uganda, with Victor Kiplagat winning the Commonwealth Marathon gold and then Jacob Kiplimo's double gold in the 5 and 10K. And you talk about Ugandan sports in 2022 minus mention of the She Cranes is a farce to say the least. After the girls ascended to Commonwealth Games 5th position, they took part in the first 5 cities in Australia where they excelled on the court and also marketed Uganda's culture in dance. Uganda is the pearl of Africa and continues to attract high-level dignitaries, and in the sports world, especially football, none this year beats CAF President Patrice Motsepe. During his stay, he met President Yoweri Museveni and the two shared ideas as President Museveni displayed a keepy-happy with the ball that drew much applause.
So we have been struggling with the issues of infrastructure, the issues of social services. We have not really supported sport. The only support we have given is peace. Absolutely. So with peace, this is how these fellows are coming up. They are coming up with minimum support. But once where we are going now, because the economy is growing but also transforming, you will see we shall really give support.
The number of sports federations or associations registered at National Council of Sports reduced by 1, but the rest witnessed several successes, as explained by Uganda archery boss Makbonda Simwe.
Next year we believe including then para athletes, because they're also resourceful and it's an all-inclusive sport which can be played from a young age and old age, where we have categories of the compound participants and the craft participants, and then we have outdoor and indoor.
Several factors, including the law, funding and lack of facilities remain a hindrance to Uganda's sport.
You can't have all games and then you invest money and then you say about 37 federations, they are getting 33 million per year.
You are aware government cabinet approved the pass bill, and now it is before Parliament for processing. We are hopeful that the target set for us in January, in December, has been fulfilled, and we hope now, come January, this bill will be passed by Parliament.
At UBC, it was a spectacular year for us that was highlighted by showing of the Football World Cup, won by Argentina largely through exploits of their talismanic captain, Lionel Messi.
People who love the game and people who love football, there was only one thing we would wish for him, was to win the World Cup, to crown it all, because you want the greatest players, the great players, you want them to match achievement with what they do on the football pitch.
But no sooner had the World Cup ended than news of death of arguably the best ever man to grace a football pitch took us by storm.
If you get the gift from God to play, if you be in good shape, nobody stop you.
Rest in peace, Arantes do Nascimento Pele, the only three-time winner of the Football World Cup and a man whose exploits transcended stadiums.
¿A qué hora vamos a parar? ¿A qué hora vamos a parar? ¿A qué hora vamos a parar? Vamos a quedar
Oh, there's a lovely footage there of fallen football players, Maradona and the late Maradona and the late Pele. And now into the health scene. HIV/AIDS prevalence rate in the Mid-North as the year ends remained high compared to other regions and above the national average. The prevalence in Mid-North stands at 7.2%, much higher than the national average of 5.2%. Now, in our HIV series, despite the year ending today, Ediolwa looks at Lira City, which is a central business center in the region and situated along the northeastern corridor, which authorities believe increased the vulnerability of its dwellers to this health threat. We have details in this report.
Lira, a commercial and industrial city, sits along northeastern corridor, a route followed by over 500 trucks daily en route to South Sudan and DRC. Higanga in Lira City is one of their popular stopovers with many low-cost lodges in the vicinity and a number of commercial sex workers. Authorities say it is one of the hotspots contributing to the high HIV prevalence in the region.
Even our prevalence is above the national prevalence. Mid-North, where Lira City is situated, has almost the second highest prevalence of HIV/AIDS within the country.
A 20-year-old Marcia Jock, not her real names, operates here as a commercial sex worker. A 30-minute sex engagement costs between 2,000 to 5,000 shillings. She prefers live sex because it earns her 20,000 shillings per shot, but satisfied clients even pay more.
She regrets
using her body to fend for her family and dreams to quit once she gets hairdressing skills. To earn more money, Mercy had many live sex debuts and does not recall when she acquired HIV. Like many teenagers, Mercy left their village in Aleptong district to hunt for a job.
Those who have been working with Indian, you find them producing children with Indian. Was it through mutual consent? Definitely no. So somebody would go to work, at the end of it will be abused. So such abuses are also rampant.
The UNAIDS new statistics have indicated that 575 adolescents and young women aged between 15 to 24 years get infected with HIV on a weekly basis. James Omarelem, the Secretary of Finance for Lira City, blames the prevalence on knowledge gap.
Do we still hear mentions and jingles about HIV/AIDS on radios and television? Do we have enough personnel
talking to these young people. And what are they talking about?
Our parents are shy to share facts with their children. So children are now trying to discover things on their own. Sometimes in the process of discovery, they realize when they have already risked their life.
Besides including sexuality education in schools, experts believe enabling girls stay in school can reduce vulnerability of getting HIV up to 50%. In Lango sub-region, a survey done by CDFU in 2021 revealed 23,000 teenagers impregnated in 1 year during the lockdown.
What it means is that you are first of all a generation that is playing live sex, and this means that our system is porous, that the parents do not have the capacity to contain and support the children, that the community is failing, that our system of government is not responding.
In Uganda, criminalization, discrimination and stigma still limit several from accessing HIV services.
And no one even made it worse that she will not reach tomorrow.
Zainab Talib, a resident of Lira City East Division, nearly ended her life due to stigma while at school. When friends realized she was taking some drugs daily, she was treated like an outcast. She later dropped out of school. After counseling, she declared her status to embark on a journey of positive living.
I know there are a lot that are disclosing, but there's this attitude that men have. Once you tell them that, you know, I'm HIV positive, they will reply you, if I'm ugly, tell me.
She says her boyfriend is negative, and so she takes her drugs daily for his safety.
And that was how I managed to really bring down the viral load.
So I'm working hard to support my fellow youth.
Like Zainab, Isaac and Nye also dropped out of school due to stigma. Both Isaac and Zainab believe the struggle against the epidemic may never succeed without addressing stigma and discrimination. Simon Okengdi, a teacher at Chaba Secondary School in Oyam District, says much as they have trained some teachers to counsel students living positively, stigma still exists.
In most cases, they don't disclose, but they try to confide in us, the administrators, to make them more comfortable from stigmatization. There is need for constant counseling.
People used to fear. To me, that was okay. People would look at your hairstyle and say, this one already have issue. People would fear you. But now, those ones who are sick, they're the most healthy one.
It's no longer shame if HIV. Now, the president has an initiative to make sure by 2030, we don't have HIV in our societies. There's no way you can know and reach that level if you have not tested.
To involve men, young women, girls and boys in the fight, so that we close the new tap. That means closing the new infections.
Professor Richard Nam, a commissioner at Uganda AIDS Commission, says the president's guidance earned Uganda the 8th position globally in the fight against mother-to-child transmission.
There were massive achievements.
Almost no young infants are being born with HIV/AIDS now because of the intervention in place, as long as the mothers come early.
But now even the 99th target, which the UNAIDS put for us, the first 90.
And with that, that is UBC Year in Review 2020. Kazimoto. Have yourself a happy